Okay, so the next portion of the presentation is going to focus more on the financial projections of the Bean, including our aspects for stockholders, partners, shareholders, and the clientele that we're hoping to bring in. The stockholders and partners that the Bean is going to look for. Initially, it's going to feature the 4 stockholders slash partners and a private stockhold. We each agreed that each partner will put an equal portion for a startup cost. We each initially agreed that that startup cost per person would be $10,000. Any additional We originally took that $10,000 breakdown for each person and put it into a $40,000 bin, which we broke down our costs based on our rental costs, our startup costs, and initially our startup costs, even with just the flat 40,000, should be enough for us to provide without stockholders, but we did come up with some options if we did add stockholders. To the stockholders or investors we add after that point, we would have to negotiate on a case by case and amount basis on what components of the business they would then hold. As we develop it as a business, we would have to consider whether or not we were going to stay privatized or go ahead and enter into a more public arena. But for the first few years, we would want to initially focus all the attention primarily on the 4 initial partners. The target audience that we're going to go ahead and look at is, of course, going to be primarily the Chico community. We're going to be centered in Chico. We're going to be in downtown Chico. So one of the best ways that we can target the local community is looking at the students, because that's going to be one of the largest areas, especially where we're going to be located. We're going to be relatively close to the college, closer than a lot of our competition. And we're going to go ahead and plan for, trying to make healthier, fresher coffee that will bring in people who care about not using pesticides. So we're going to be getting in different people who care about the environment and care about their health. Hopefully this will also bring in different groups like the local activists, not only in their work with the community, but also activists in doing activities. So since Chico is such a large cycling community, we could really rely on our green stance to direct our market towards the local cycling community. We're also going to be taking portions of our quarterly earnings and donating them to the local Chico community. After a brief period, we would also want to open up our target demographic to a much larger demographic. So initially want to grow a solid base with the college students and the local Chico community, but hopefully kind of get the word out and spread it along. So once we can kind of create a nice target base market, we could spread into an even larger market. In addition to the target market, we're going to also want to take a look at our financial projections. And of course, with any new business, the first year of the new business is going to be the most sensitive. So we're going to want to focus on perfecting one area at a time. So we don't want to expand into everything all at once. We're going to want to go ahead, and since our primary product is going to be coffee, we're really going to want to nail that and make sure that we have a good staff that's going to not have a lot of turnover and really perfect our ingredients and our relationships with local vendors. Along with this, we need to be realistic. We need to realize that we're not going to be a Starbucks within the first year, so we really need to focus our aspects on both the here and now and giving ourselves some realistic perspectives on where we can go. And so this will be a big portion of having to start small and expand our company as necessary. So if we do end up very busy and having an overwhelming wait time or number of customers and we aren't meeting the needs, then we can start thinking about expanding to other cities or maybe expanding to a new area within Chico to keep with the Chico market. But we can view our first quarter earnings and adjust our costs as needed, as well as every quarter henceforth, but then also paying attention to our daily intake, our weekly intake, and our monthly intake, which we will have an on-site manager that will be monitoring and buying our supplies on a weekly basis, making sure that we are where we need to, and if we're changing rapidly or not getting any change at all, that we're effectively paying attention to those areas and making sure that we're budgeting effectively for what we're actually utilizing. Of course, in order to project, we also have to have a good idea of what our competition is. So it's nice to go ahead and now move into the breakdown of the different components of our competition and how that will affect our business.